Hi, my name is Christina. So I'm the COO at Ubongo. I basically oversee production and operations throughout the different entities at Ubongo. So we are an NGO. We have an entity in the US, in Tanzania, and in South Africa. We also have on the ground Ubongo, as we call ourselves, in different countries in Africa, because we really position ourselves as a Pan-African organization. So the content we create, we're trying to include as much different cultures as possible. We adapt into different languages across Africa. So we really, when we're creating the content, we're doing user testing with different groups of children across different countries in Africa. So really trying to, the content we're making for the African kids to really come from the African kids themselves. It started with a group of co-founders who just all came from different fields. So a social entrepreneur, an IT guy, an arts teacher, a maths teacher, an animator. So all of them with a shared passion of how do you improve the education in Tanzania. So they all met at different times. They all knew each other at different times. And then one introduced one to each other. And then when they all came together, they realized like, okay, this is really what we want to do. We really want to change the way education is done in Tanzania to make learning fun, because from their different experiences, they saw that really learning is sitting in the classroom trying to memorize what the teacher writes on the blackboard, but how do you make learning fun through, fun visuals, through fun music? How do you encourage the new generation, the younger generation, to find the fun in learning, which has kind of become our unofficial tagline ever since. Also looking at the educational challenge across Africa. The challenge being that there's really the social and cognitive development of children is really low across Africa. And this really starts from the youngest age. So children, even ages between 3 and 4 experience really low cognitive, social, emotional development. And this is compounded as they grow older, compounded with the fact that then, in primary school, there's not enough teachers, there's not enough resources. A lot of students don't even have a single textbook to call their own. So this gets worse and worse progressively. So really, we were looking at how do we solve the crisis from a young age? How do we start building those, building blocks of the educational building blocks from a young age, and making sure that even from a young age, children have the capacity to, think for themselves, to really understand learning, to find the learning fun. Then as they go into, primary and secondary school, to be able to use the resources within themselves. So even if they don't have textbooks, but what other resources can they use to be able to continue learning, to be able to, use the learning that they get to really change the trajectory of their own life, and that they're not just passive receivers of what life throws at them, but they have those tools, whether it's critical thinking skills, whether it's, other kind of analytical skills or curiosity, to have those tools to be able to then, kind of help themselves also throughout life, instead of just letting the situation around them to impact the trajectory of their lives. With Ubongo, we're trying to solve the educational crisis across Africa, specifically quality of education. So we're not looking at it from the angle of, how many schools to build. We're looking at it from the angle of, with the opportunities or in the environment that kids are in, how do we get them the best quality education? And also even for the last mile children, those who have no access to technology, no access to internet or electricity, how do we get our content to them through printables on border, so like motorbikes going across different villages? How do we get content to the last mile child? Because they've not had the foundation that is necessary. They're already kind of behind in terms of social and cognitive development. So how do we start at that young age when they're, like sponges, soaking everything in, building that foundation for them. And then as they get older, also adding in, topics from the curriculum, adding in curiosity, elements of all of those things that will also help them to be able to take control of their learning and control of their lives a little bit more. So they're not just passive receivers, but they're children who can say, I am a curious child. I will use this curiosity to find out more about ABC. And then this is how I change the trajectory of my life. I think right now the biggest challenge we're facing is accessibility. So how do we get those really the last mile children? So we've come up with different ideas. We have our toolkits platform that we open up to everyone who can download, like whether you're a teacher, a parent, or community leader, you can download our content, print it out, take it to your community. We're also working with motorbike drivers to be able to, either show on a TV screen or printables, take our content to different communities. So that right now has been the biggest challenge. Historically, our challenges have been just the kind of the setup in Africa of mass media, so a lot of TV stations are kind of set up to get profit and not necessarily to kind of use content for free. So what we have said is we want to give our content for free so that you can reach as many kids in Africa as possible. But I think earlier on there was a mindset of, well, we won't show the content unless we get profit out of it. So really working with that system of we want to reach children, but we know that, the system we're working with, there's also a financial aspect of it. And then also, honestly, even for us, it's sustainability, like we're donor funded, but how do we get to that point where we're sustainable from our content, from our merchandise, so that we can continue doing more for kids across Africa without being kind of restricted because of funding. But I think actually with the COVID crisis, unfortunately, with a lot of kids being at home, then broadcasters and governments have actually reached out to us wanting our content even more easily without having to go through all the bureaucracy and all of the other kind of obstacles that we would originally face. So I think that has also helped the mindset shift. I mean, we started as a startup. Right now we are in a growth stage, so we're no longer in the startup stage. I think what advice we would give ourselves is also to look more at different revenue options. So when we started, it was like, okay, we have this great content that we know will work for the kids. We need someone to fund it. So we really spend a lot of time looking at financial sponsors like, banks or telecommunication companies. And we got one and that was great. They sponsored our first season. But then we spent a long time after that looking for those kind of funding, that kind of sponsorships. And, the ones with money are the ones like Coca-Cola, which we don't want to associate with our Healthy Kids brand. So a lot of time was really put in that until we kind of shifted the mindset to be like, okay, we're not for profit, we're nonprofit. So we don't have to, that doesn't have to be our main source of funding. Let's look for other sources of funding. So really aligning your vision and mission and your revenue stream and understanding, like almost being able to predict if this is the path we want to go down on, these are the people who can walk with us longest on that path versus people who can work with us only on the short term. And also knowing your environment, there's only a limited profit you can make in Africa from, merchandise, etc. Although right now a lot of our merchandise is being bought from the diaspora families in the US and in Europe. But yeah, we spent a long time investing in revenue streams that were not in line with our vision and mission. Actually, we've kind of evolved in this because we used to hire for skills and someone who we know they can get the job done without a lot of hand holding. So, we need more of that. We're growing very fast. Now, really what we're looking at is we're hiring people who have the same values as what we say our company stands for. Culture of how you work together, the collaborative spirit, the doing it for the kids. So we look at people's values and people's culture because we understand now that skills you can train as you go along. And like even internally at Ubongo, we do a lot of capacity building. That's one of the things we hold very dear. So we can easily do that, but it's hard to change people's values and change people's culture. So right now we hire from the angle of like, how will they work collaboratively with the team? How will they prioritize kids across Africa versus, my kind of own personal growth or what I need. So that's kind of the key thing. Obviously, there's some roles where you do want some like M&E. We're trying to hire for M&E right now. So you do want someone who is like really qualified in that to lead the M&E aspect of Ubongo, but also I think it has to be a balance between having the skills and the professional skills, but also having the values. Like, I mean, like if we find ourselves working in the office until 9 at night, we don't work every day till 9 at night, but you want someone who will understand why we have to do that. So the organization is called Ubongo. So if you want to go online, it's a good starting place to start with our website. There's ubongo.org. From there, you can find links to other different platforms. If you want to start with YouTube, you can either type in Ubongo Kids or Akili and Me, which are our two main shows. And then from there, there's always like kind of recommendations to the other channels from that. So I think those are the two key places that you can find us. Obviously, start with the website, and then from there, whatever kind of product you want, then you'll find links of, going to the App Store or whatever other platform that our products are on. I always say we're building brains in order to build change. So we're not looking at it from we have to necessarily tackle change as an external person, but we're looking at it as like, how do we help impact change as an internal person? So how do we build the kids to trust themselves, to have confidence? How do we build their cognitive abilities to then be able to take change into their own hands? So what we've learned, and my advice would be really to capacity build someone to do the rest. Like, you can't walk the full path. So just capacity build someone to be able to walk the rest of the path.